Captain Sarah Chun stood at attention in the grand crystalline hall of the Vethrani Imperial Palace. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, filled with floating orbs of light that pulsed like heartbeats. She had been chosen as Earth's first diplomatic representative to the Vethrani Empire, a decision that still felt surreal even after 6 months of preparation. The Vethrani were magnificent beings. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, their skin shimmered with scales that changed color based on their emotions. Their eyes were large and luminous, capable of seeing across multiple light spectrums. Most impressive was their longevity. The average Vethrani lived for over 2,000 years. Princess Zarathil approached with fluid grace. Her scales currently displayed deep purple and gold patterns, indicating curiosity and respect according to Sarah's cultural briefings. The princess's voice carried a musical quality that made even simple words sound like poetry. "Ambassador Chun," the princess said, her translator device rendering her words into perfect English. "Your species continues to fascinate our scholars. We have studied your biological data extensively, yet many questions remain unanswered." Sarah smiled diplomatically. "I'm honored to help bridge the gap between our peoples, Your Highness. What would you like to know?" The princess gestured toward a comfortable seating area surrounded by holographic displays, showing various alien worlds under Vethrani protection. "Our empire spans 47 star systems, Ambassador. We have encountered 136 intelligent species. Yet humans present unique characteristics that puzzle our greatest minds." As they settled into chairs that automatically adjusted to Sarah's human physiology, she noticed several Vethrani Ketias watching from a distance. Their scales displayed various shades of green and blue, colors indicating scientific interest and anticipation. "Your species arrived on the galactic stage remarkably quickly," Princess Zarathil continued. "Most civilizations require millennia to develop interstellar travel. Humans achieved this in mere centuries after discovering fire. This rapid advancement defies our understanding of typical evolutionary patterns." Sarah nodded, having heard similar observations from other alien species humanity had encountered. "We've always been adaptable and ambitious, Your Highness. Perhaps necessity drove our rapid development." The princess's scales shifted to brighter gold, a sign of growing excitement. "But that raises another question that particularly intrigues me. Our reproductive cycles among the Vethrani occur once every 7 years. The Korathi reproduce once per decade. The ancient Zelani reproduce only twice in their entire 1,000-year lifespans." Sarah sensed where this conversation was heading and felt her cheeks warm slightly. Discussions of reproduction were normal diplomatic territory when establishing relationships between species. But they still felt awkward. "Your biological reports indicate humans can reproduce year-round," the princess continued. Her large eyes focused intently on Sarah. "But the data seems incomplete. Our scientists debate the specifics constantly. Some believe your reports contain errors." A Vethrani advisor approached and whispered something in their musical language. The princess's scales flickered briefly to silver, indicating surprise or shock. She turned back to Sarah with renewed interest. "Ambassador, my chief biologist has just informed me of a particular aspect of human reproduction that our scholars find impossible to believe." The princess leaned forward slightly. "The report suggests that humans can engage in reproductive activities multiple times in a single day. Surely this must be a translation error?" Sarah realized this moment could define the relationship between their species. The Vethrani valued honesty above all else, and their reaction to humanity's unique traits would shape future diplomatic relations. "Your Highness," Sarah began carefully, "the reports are accurate. Humans do indeed have the biological capacity for multiple reproductive attempts within a 24-hour period." The princess's scales exploded into rapid color changes, silver, gold, and deep blue swirling in patterns Sarah had never seen before. Several courtiers gasped audibly, their own scales lighting up in similar displays of amazement, multiple times in one day. The princess repeated, her voice carrying a note of wonder. "But how is this possible? The energy expenditure alone should be prohibitive. For a species with your metabolic rate?" Sarah found herself in the unique position of having to explain one of humanity's most basic biological functions to beings who had mastered interstellar travel but reproduced as rarely. As humans changed careers, the implications of this conversation were beginning to dawn on her, and she suspected this was just the beginning of a very interesting cultural exchange. Sarah took a deep breath, realizing she was about to have one of the most unusual conversations in diplomatic history. Around the hall, more Vethrani had gathered, their scales displaying every color of curiosity and scientific fascination. "Your Highness," Sarah began, "perhaps I should explain how human reproduction differs from what you're accustomed to. For humans, the physical act of mating serves purposes beyond just creating offspring." Princess Zarathel's head tilted in a gesture Sarah had learned indicated deep concentration. "You mean humans engage in reproductive behavior when they cannot actually reproduce?" "Exactly. Humans can mate for pleasure, emotional bonding, stress relief, and social connection. It's not solely tied to our reproductive cycles." Sarah found herself grateful for the diplomatic training that had prepared her for unusual cultural exchanges. An elderly Vethrani scholar approached, his scales displaying deep purple patterns of scholarly excitement. "Ambassador, I am High Scholar Kethven. If I may ask, how frequently do humans typically engage in these activities?" Sarah glanced around the room, noting that what seemed like half the Vethrani court had now gathered to hear her answer. "Well, it varies greatly between individuals and relationships. Some couples might be intimate several times per week, others daily, some less frequently." The collective gasp from the assembled Vethrani was audible. Scales throughout the room erupted in patterns Sarah's briefings had never covered, rapid shifting between gold, silver, and bright blue that seemed to indicate a mixture of amazement, disbelief, and scientific fascination. "Several times per week?" Princess Zarathil repeated slowly. "For their entire adult lives?" "Generally, yes. Human sexuality remains active well into advanced age, though it may decline somewhat." Sarah paused, then added, "I should mention that humans also engage in these activities purely for recreation and bonding, even when pregnancy is impossible or undesired." High Scholar Kethven made rapid notes on a holographic tablet that materialized in front of him. "This explains so much about human behavior patterns we've observed. Your species' strong pair bonding, your rapid emotional connections, even your willingness to take risks for relationships." Princess Zarathil stood and began pacing, her scales shifting through thoughtful patterns of deep blue and green. "If humans can mate multiple times in a single day, and do so regularly throughout their lives, this represents an enormous energy expenditure. How do you maintain adequate nutrition and health?" Sarah smiled, recognizing she was witnessing a scientific breakthrough moment. "Our physiology evolved to support this activity level. Humans are remarkably efficient at converting food to energy, and our recovery time between activities is relatively short." "Recovery time?" the princess asked. "Yes, humans typically need only minutes to hours between instances, depending on various factors. Some individuals can repeat the activity within minutes." The silence that followed was profound. Even the floating lights in the ceiling seemed to dim as every Vethrani in the hall processed this information. High Scholar Kethven finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Minutes? You're saying a human could theoretically mate, rest briefly, and then mate again within the same hour?" "Theoretically, yes, though stamina varies greatly between individuals." Princess Zarathil stopped pacing and stared at Sarah with her large, luminous eyes. "Ambassador Chun, you have just provided the answer to one of our greatest mysteries about human expansion across the galaxy." Sarah felt confusion creeping across her face. "I'm not sure I understand, Your Highness. Your species' rapid population growth and colonization patterns. We couldn't understand how humans could spread across multiple star systems so quickly, establishing colonies with sufficient genetic diversity. Now we understand, humans can produce offspring at a rate we never imagined possible." The princess's scales had settled into solid gold patterns now, indicating deep respect and awe. A Vethrani colony requires careful planning and hundreds of years to establish adequate population numbers. Humans could theoretically establish a thriving colony within a few generations. Sarah nodded slowly, beginning to understand the implications herself. Our reproductive capacity has been one of our greatest survival advantages. Even when facing disasters or conflicts, human populations can recover relatively quickly. This changes everything, High Scholar Kethvin murmured, still making rapid notes. Every model we've created about human expansion, every prediction about your species' future development, all of it needs to be recalculated. Princess Zarathel returned to her seat, her expression thoughtful. Ambassador, I believe we need to understand more about human biology and behavior. This information could reshape how the Vethrani Empire interacts with humanity. Sarah realized that what had started as an awkward biological discussion was turning into something much more significant. The implications for galactic politics were becoming clear, and she suspected this was only the beginning. The next morning, Sarah found herself in the palace's vast research facility, surrounded by Vethrani scientists whose scales practically glowed with excitement. Princess Zarathil had requested a full briefing on human biology, and Sarah quickly realized she was participating in what might become the most important xenobiological study in galactic history. Dr. Yethmor, the Empire's leading biologist, gestured to holographic displays showing human anatomical data. Ambassador, after studying your information overnight, our entire understanding of biological evolution requires revision. Humans possess what we're calling reproductive overdrive, a biological system that exceeds all known parameters. Sarah watched as the displays showed comparative charts between humans and various alien species. The differences were staggering. Where most alien species reproduced annually or less frequently, human capability was represented by a bar that extended far beyond the others. What puzzles us most, Dr. Yethmor continued, is how humans maintain this capability without suffering severe biological consequences. The energy requirements alone should be catastrophic to your cellular structure. Princess Zarathil approached one of the displays showing human metabolic data. Your species burns calories at an extraordinary rate, yet maintains stable health. You consume food multiple times daily, process it efficiently, and convert it to usable energy faster than any species we've encountered. Sarah nodded, beginning to understand how unique humanity truly was. We've always known humans had high metabolisms, but seeing it compared to galactic norms is eye-opening. It's not just metabolism, High Scholar Kethvin added, his scales displaying deep purple contemplation patterns. Humans demonstrate rapid healing, quick adaptation to new environments, and remarkable stress tolerance. These traits support your reproductive capacity. Dr. Yethmor activated another display showing human psychological profiles. But perhaps most fascinating is the emotional component. Human pair bonding occurs rapidly and intensely, supported by complex neurochemical processes that reinforce reproductive behavior. You mean our brain chemistry is designed to encourage frequent mating? Sarah asked. Precisely. Humans release pleasure chemicals during intimate contact, creating positive reinforcement loops. Most species experience this only during actual reproductive periods. Humans experience it constantly. Princess Zarathella's scales shifted to bright silver patterns of amazement. This explains human art, literature, and music. So much of human culture revolves around romantic and intimate relationships because your brains are literally wired to prioritize these connections. Sarah thought about human history, literature, and pop culture, realizing how much of it did indeed center around romantic relationships and physical attraction. It's so fundamental to our experience that we barely notice it. The implications for human space expansion are staggering, Dr. Yethmor continued. A single human colony ship with adequate genetic diversity could populate an entire world within centuries. Most alien species require millennia to establish sustainable populations. High Scholar Kethvin activated a galactic map showing human colonies spreading across known space. Look at this expansion pattern. Humans have established more colonies in 50 years than the Korathi managed in 500. Princess Zarathil studied the map with obvious concern. Our military advisors are already requesting updated threat assessments. Not because humans are aggressive, but because their population growth represents a form of power we never anticipated. Sarah felt a chill of worry. Your Highness, I hope this information doesn't create fear of humanity. Our reproductive capacity isn't a weapon. Of course not, the princess replied quickly, her scales showing reassuring green patterns. But understanding this capability changes how we view human potential. A species that can reproduce this efficiently, combined with your technological advancement rate, represents unprecedented galactic influence. Dr. Yethmer pulled up economic projections. Human worlds will have larger workforces, bigger consumer bases, and more rapid resource development. The economic implications alone could reshape interstellar trade. There's another factor we haven't discussed, High Scholar Kethvin noted. Human children mature relatively quickly compared to most species. Vethrani offspring require 60 years to reach adulthood. Humans achieve this in roughly 18 years. Sarah watched as the implications sank in around the room. So not only can we reproduce frequently, but our offspring become productive members of society much faster. Exactly, Princess Zarathil confirmed. Humans don't just multiply quickly, they multiply productive individuals quickly. This represents a form of rapid societal development that defies all our models. Dr. Yethmer displayed population projections that made everyone in the room fall silent. If current trends continue, humans could represent the largest single-species population in known space within 3 centuries. Princess Zarathil turned to Sarah, her scales displaying complex patterns that seemed to mix respect, concern, and deep thoughtfulness. Ambassador, I believe we need to convene an emergency session of the Galactic Council. This information will reshape interstellar politics. Sarah realized that her simple answer to a biological question had just changed the course of galactic history. The other species would need to understand what they were dealing with when it came to humanity's potential. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council, facing representatives from dozens of alien civilizations. Word of humanity's reproductive capabilities had spread like wildfire through diplomatic channels, and every major species had sent their finest scientists and military strategists. The Korathi delegation sat in their environmental suits, their crystalline bodies reflecting the hall's lights in worried patterns. The insectoid Thurkari clustered together, their antennae twitching with agitation. Even the ancient Zelani, who rarely left their homeworld, had sent a representative. Princess Zarathil called the session to order, her scales displaying formal silver patterns of diplomatic authority. Honored delegates, we gathered to discuss revelations about human reproductive biology that may fundamentally alter galactic civilization. High Scholar Kethvin activated a massive holographic display showing comparative reproductive data across species. The human statistics caused audible gasps and concerned chittering from various alien delegates. Ambassador Thektar of the Korathi spoke first, his crystal form resonating with harmonic concern. These numbers suggest humans could outnumber all other species combined within 500 years. How do we maintain galactic balance with such rapid population growth? Sarah stepped forward to address the assembly. Honored delegates, I understand your concerns, but I'd like to provide context. Human reproductive capability doesn't automatically translate to unlimited population growth. We have social, economic, and personal factors that regulate reproduction. The Thrakari Queen Speaker's translation device buzzed before conveying her words. Yet human colonies continue expanding at unprecedented rates. Your species establishes new settlements faster than we can track them. Dr. Yethmer presented detailed analyses to the assembly. The data shows humans aren't just numerous, they're efficient. Human colonies become self-sufficient within decades, while most species require centuries. This efficiency multiplies their expansion capability. A concerned murmur rippled through the assembly as delegates absorbed the implications. The elderly, Zelani representative, speaking for the first time in the session, asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens when humans encounter resource limitations? Most species respond to scarcity by reducing reproduction. Will humans behave similarly, or will their biological drives override rational resource management? Sarah realized this was a crucial moment for humanity's galactic reputation. In Earth's history, humans have always found innovative solutions to resource challenges. We develop new technologies, find alternative resources, or expand to new territories. Our reproductive drive actually motivates innovation and exploration. Princess Zarathil's scales shifted to thoughtful blue patterns. This raises another point. Human expansion isn't just about population, it's about rapid technological development driven by necessity. Each human colony faces unique challenges that accelerate innovation. Ambassador Thektar's crystalline form dimmed with worry. So humans don't just multiply faster, they advance technologically faster as well. Each new colony becomes a potential source of breakthrough innovations. The Thrakari Queen Speaker's mandibles clicked rapidly before she spoke. Our military analysts suggest this combination of rapid reproduction and technological advancement represents a scenario we're unprepared for. Not hostile expansion, but expansion that could make all other species irrelevant. Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Humanity's future relationships with galactic civilization hung on how she addressed these concerns. Honored delegates, she began. I believe you're viewing this from the wrong perspective. Humans don't seek to replace or dominate other species. Our rapid reproduction and expansion actually creates opportunities for cooperation and mutual benefit. Dr. Yethmer activated new displays showing economic projections. Ambassador Chun makes an important point. Larger human populations mean larger markets for alien goods and services. Human technological innovation could benefit all species if properly shared. The Zelani representative leaned forward with ancient wisdom in his eyes. But can humans be trusted to share rather than hoard? History shows that rapidly expanding species often become territorial and aggressive. Sarah knew this was her moment to define humanity's place in the galaxy. Our reproductive biology doesn't make us aggressive, it makes us social and cooperative. Humans form strong bonds not just within families but within communities. We thrive on diversity and collaboration. Princess Zarathil stood, her scales displaying patterns of diplomatic authority. I propose we establish a joint monitoring committee to track human expansion and ensure it benefits all galactic species. Rather than fearing human capability, we should harness it for common good. Ambassador Thektar's crystal form brightened slightly. A monitoring system with built-in cooperation protocols could work. Humans get expansion rights, other species get technological and economic benefits. The Thrakari Queen Speaker buzzed agreement. Manage cooperation rather than uncontrolled expansion. This could establish precedent for future species integration. Sarah felt cautious optimism as she watched the delegates, discussing frameworks for human integration rather than containment. The conversation had shifted from fear to opportunity, and she realized Princess Zarathil's diplomatic skills had been crucial in guiding this outcome. The session was far from over, but humanity had cleared its first major hurdle in galactic acceptance. The real work of building sustainable interstellar relationships was just beginning. 6 months after the Galactic Council session, Sarah found herself touring the first joint human Vethrani research facility on the border, world of Kepler 442b. The facility represented a breakthrough in interstellar cooperation, combining human innovation with Vethrani precision and patience. Princess Zarathil walked beside her through laboratories where human and Vethrani scientists worked side by side. The sight still amazed Sarah, humans bustling with rapid energy while Vethrani moved with deliberate grace, their scales displaying calm blue patterns of concentration. The initial results exceed all projections, Dr. Martinez. The facility's human director explained as they entered the agricultural research wing. Combining human rapid cycle testing with Vethrani, long-term observation has accelerated our understanding of sustainable farming by decades. Dr. Yethmer. now serving as the facility's Vethrani co-director, gestured to vast hydroponic farms visible through transparent walls. Humans test hundreds of variations in months, while we provide stability analysis over extended periods. Together, we've developed crops that could feed colonies for generations. Sarah watched human technicians adjusting growing parameters while Vethrani scientists recorded detailed long-term data. The partnership seemed natural despite their biological differences. What about the population concerns the council raised? Sarah asked. Princess Zarathil's scales shifted to proud gold patterns. Human birth rates in joint colonies have actually stabilized at sustainable levels. When humans feel secure and purposeful, they naturally regulate family sizes based on available resources and opportunities. Dr. Martinez nodded enthusiastically. Our colonists are so focused on research and development that they're having families later and more thoughtfully. Purpose-driven communities self-regulate better than anyone predicted. They moved to the technology development section, where human rapid prototyping combined with Vethrani precision engineering. Sarah watched a human engineer sketch rough designs while a Vethrani scientist refined them into perfect specifications. The breakthrough came when we realized our species complement each other perfectly. Dr. Yethmer explained. Human creativity and speed balanced by Vethrani precision and patience creates outcomes neither species could achieve alone. A young human researcher approached excitedly. Ambassador Shun, you have to see this. We've developed atmospheric processors that can terraform marginal worlds in 50 years instead of centuries. The implications for galactic expansion are incredible. Sarah examined the holographic designs, noting how human rapid iteration design combined with Vethrani materials science had created something revolutionary. This could open up thousands of new worlds for colonization. Exactly, Princess Zarathil confirmed. But these technologies are being shared freely with all council species. Human expansion creates opportunities for everyone. They visited the Cultural Exchange Center, where humans were learning Vethrani meditation techniques while Vethrani studied human artistic expression. Sarah noticed several mixed groups engaged in collaborative projects that seemed impossible just a year ago. The social integration surprised everyone, Dr. Martinez noted. Human emotional intensity actually helps Vethrani experience new forms of creativity, while Vethrani stability gives humans deeper perspective on long-term planning. A Vethrani artist approached, her scales displaying vibrant patterns Sarah had never seen before. Ambassador, please observe this musical composition. Human emotional expression has inspired entirely new forms of Vethrani art. Our scales can now display feelings we never knew existed. The demonstration was beautiful. The Vethrani artist's scales flowed through colors and patterns that seemed to capture the essence of human jazz music, creating a visual symphony that brought tears to Sarah's eyes. But what about the other species? Sarah asked. Have they embraced this cooperation model? Princess Zarathil activated a communications array showing feeds from similar facilities across the galaxy. The Korathi have established joint, crystal-growing operations with humans that produce materials impossible to create separately. The Thrakari collaborate on hive mind research that's advancing both artificial intelligence and collective decision-making. Even the ancient Zelani have partnered with human archaeologists, Dr. Yethmar added. Human rapid analysis combined with Zelani historical knowledge is uncovering galactic history we never knew existed. Sarah realized they were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented, true interstellar civilization based on complementary abilities rather than competition or domination. The Council's concerns about human expansion have completely shifted, Princess, Zarathil continued. Instead of fearing human reproduction rates, species now compete to establish partnership programs. Human energy and creativity have become galactic resources. As they concluded the tour, Sarah reflected on how a simple biological question had transformed into a galactic renaissance. Human reproductive capacity hadn't become a threat, it had become the foundation for unprecedented cooperation and advancement. The facility represented more than successful collaboration. It demonstrated that differences in biology and culture could become strengths when approached with mutual respect and shared purpose. Standing in the observation deck overlooking the thriving colony below, Sarah realized that humanity's future in the galaxy wasn't about conquering or replacing other species. It was about elevating everyone through cooperation and innovation. 2 years later, Sarah stood before the newly constructed Galactic Unity Spire on Harmony Station, the galaxy's first truly integrated multi-species colony. The station orbited a neutron star, powered by technologies that no single species could have developed alone. Princess Zarathil approached with graceful steps, her scales displaying warm gold patterns of friendship and respect. She now served as the first director of interspecies integration, a position created after the unprecedented success of human-alien cooperation programs. Ambassador Chun, the princess said warmly. Or should I say Director Chun of the new Human Diplomatic Corps, congratulations on your promotion. Sarah smiled, still adjusting to her expanded role. Thank you, Your Highness. Though I think we both know this all started with your simple question about human reproduction. They walked through the station's central plaza, where beings from dozens of species mingled freely. Human children played alongside young Vethrani, while Korathi crystals harmonized with Thrakari musicians in performances that transcended individual species' artistic limitations. The transformation has been remarkable, Princess Zarathil observed. When I first asked about human reproductive habits, I never imagined it would reshape galactic civilization. A group of mixed-species families passed by humans, Vethrani, and even some Korathi who had developed new forms of adoption and guardianship. The sight would have been impossible just 3 years ago. The real breakthrough was realizing that human reproductive capacity wasn't just about making more humans, Sarah reflected. It was about rapid adaptation, strong social bonds, and innovative problem-solving under pressure. They entered the station's Research Command Center, where real-time feeds showed collaborative projects across hundreds of worlds. The scale of cooperation was breathtaking: terraforming projects, deep space exploration, scientific research, and cultural exchanges happening simultaneously across the galaxy. High Scholar Kethven, now Director of Xenobiological Studies, greeted them with scales displaying excited purple patterns. Sarah, Princess, you must see the latest population projections. They're extraordinary. The holographic displays showed galactic population growth across all species. To Sarah's surprise, human growth rates had stabilized while other species showed significant increases. What happened? Sarah asked. I thought human expansion was the primary concern. That's exactly what makes this fascinating, Kethven explained. Human reproductive behavior adapted to galactic integration. When humans feel secure and purposeful within multi-species communities, they naturally moderate family sizes. Meanwhile, other species exposed to human social dynamics are reproducing more frequently. Princess Zarathil studied the data with obvious amazement. Vethrani reproduction cycles have shortened from 7 years to 5. Korathi reproductive rates have doubled. Even the ancient Zelani are showing increased reproductive activity. Human influence isn't just technological and social, Kethvan continued. Human emotional intensity and bonding behaviors are encouraging other species to form stronger relationships and have more offspring. We're seeing galaxy-wide population growth across all species. Sarah realized the implications were staggering. So human integration didn't just prevent human dominance through overpopulation, it encouraged healthy population growth across all species. Precisely, Princess Zarathil confirmed. The galaxy is experiencing a renaissance of life and growth that benefits everyone. Human reproductive capacity became a catalyst for galactic vitality rather than a threat to galactic balance. They moved to the cultural observation deck, where Ambassador Thektar of the Korathi waited with his characteristic crystal harmonics of greeting. His entire form had grown brighter over the past 2 years, reflecting improved health and happiness. Ambassador Chun, his resonant voice carried notes of deep gratitude. I must apologize for our initial concerns about human expansion. Your species has given us gifts we never imagined possible. Sarah was curious. What kind of gifts, Ambassador? Emotional depth, he replied simply. Korathi have always experienced existence through harmonic resonance, but humans taught us about passion, excitement, and deep personal connections. Our entire civilization has become richer and more vibrant. A Thrakari representative approached, her mandibles clicking in patterns Sarah had learned indicated extreme excitement. Director Chun, the Hive Queens want to express gratitude for human influence on our reproduction cycles. For the first time in millennia, we're establishing new hives based on exploration and discovery rather than mere survival necessity. Princess Zarathil's scales displayed deep blue patterns of philosophical contemplation. Sarah, do you realize what we've discovered? Human sexuality and reproduction weren't just biological functions, they were expressions of life force and creativity that other species had forgotten or never experienced. Sarah looked out at the thriving multi-species community surrounding them. Children of various species played together while adults collaborated on projects that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. When you asked how often humans could reproduce, Sarah said to the princess, you thought you were asking about biology, but you were really asking about humanity's approach to life itself. Exactly, Princess Zarathil replied, her scales settling into warm gold patterns of deep respect. Humans don't just reproduce frequently. You live frequently, love frequently, and create frequently. That intensity became infectious in the best possible way. As they watched the sunset through the station's transparent walls, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey that had begun with an embarrassing question about human reproduction. That question had revealed fundamental differences between species that, when properly understood and integrated, had created something greater than any single civilization could achieve alone. The galaxy was no longer a collection of separate species competing for resources and territory. It had become a true community where differences in biology, culture, and perspective combined to create unprecedented prosperity and cooperation. Human reproductive capacity had indeed changed the galaxy, not through conquest or dominance, but by inspiring all species to embrace life, connection, and growth with renewed vigor and purpose.